Guten Erev Shabbos. Albert Einstein defined education as that which remains after you have forgotten everything you learned in school. You know, of all the myriad facts and pieces of information that a child absorbs in school, very little remains. What remains ultimately are those nurturing moments when the teacher reached out and connected with the child. I was once called by the author of the book, Make Me, Don't Break Me, Rabbi Gans. And he said he heard a story about me. I had a student in my office, and I was talking to the student, and my secretary called in and said, "There's someone very important here to see you." To which I replied, according to the story, "I am speaking to someone who's very important." And when the child heard that, it transformed him, it changed his whole attitude to adults and to the school. Now, I told Rabbi Gans it didn't happen with me. It most probably could have happened with either of my parents, and I'm going to aspire to try to be that type of an educator, because that's ultimately what makes a difference to a young child. This week's Parsha, the Pasuk says, opens up with the words, V'hoya ekev tishmon, which translates literally, when you will listen to my words, and then the Torah recounts the rewards that one will receive for following God's mitzvahs. But the commentaries, the deeper interpretation of those words, V'hoya ekev tishmon, is, ekev means a heel. And what the Pasuk is saying is, when you fulfill the mitzvahs that people generally trample with their heel, in other words, people assume that it's just the weighty mitzvahs that are important. But the small things we can trample, we don't have to take them so seriously. So the Torah says, no, it's specifically the small things that when you fulfill those, then you receive reward. It's the small, seemingly insignificant conversations that a teacher has with a student, that a parent has with their child, that ultimately transforms the child because it builds the relationship between the adult and the child. In a couple of weeks, on September 4th, we'll be honoring the Republican senator from Pennsylvania, Dave McCormick, who is a friend of Israel and a defender of and a dear friend to the Jewish community, and has done so much for Pennsylvania. And we'll be honoring him on September 4th. He wrote a book with his wife called Who Believed in You? And he talks about transforming mentorship. And he talks about the crisis of trust that exists. The young people have ceased to believe in institutions and people in leadership, whether it's in the news, whether the media, whether it's in the clergy, the business world. And it's our job to create that trust within the youth. And it can be done, and it's done by the V'hoya ekev tishmon, by doing those small things, showing that we care about them, reaching out to them. That ultimately will have a tremendous effect on them. And of course, a school is about teaching knowledge and information, and we have to be outstanding at that as well, of course. But ultimately, as Einstein said, education is the things that remain after they've forgotten those details that they learned in school. Have a wonderful Shabbos.